Short microphone. We're streaming and recording.
Excuse me?
We are streaming and recording.
Okay.
We can start whenever.
I'm ready. Okay. Well, I'd like to call this meeting of the East Franklinton Review Board to order. Roll, please.
That's not good. It was mine that did it. I'll just speak loudly. Mr. Fergus,
Here?
Mr. Overly,
Here.
Mr. Way is not present. Mr. Bush,
Here.
Mr. Nobby,
Here.
Ms. Benner. Here. And Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay. Before we get started with the regular agenda here, gentleman to my right, Mr. Jim Sweeney, is new to the board, and we want to welcome him.
Welcome. Thanks, everybody. I feel very welcome.
Okay, moving on. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from our last meeting in July? Do you have any corrections, additions, or I'll entertain a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Call the roll, please.
That was moved by Mr. Nobby and seconded by Mr. Overly. Correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Fergus,
Approved.
Mr. Overly,
Approve.
Mr. Bush,
Approve.
Mr. Nobby,
Approve.
Ms. Benner. Approved. And Mr. Sweeney will abstain since he's not present. Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, new applications. First one is EF 22-08001, address 433, 455 West Broad Street, 60 McDowell Street, and 400 West State Street, Gravity 2. Jessica Sherman is the applicant, Kaufman Development is the owner. Staff report, please.
Chair. Whatever.
Yes, Mr. Bush is recusing himself,
And Mr. Nobby.
and Mr. Dobbin. We still enough here.
Yes. I'm sorry if I forgot already, but did we swear meat in?
Is he? Oh,
No. Okay,
Jim?
me.
Oh,
Staff.
okay, staff. All right, as to staff, I will now swear you in. You swear that the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief.
I do. Stephanie Kensler, planner, City of Plymouth.
Thank you.
Thank you. EF 22-08001. This is for the signage and graphics for the Gravity 2 project. The applicant is requesting review and action for the development in the West Broad Street subdistrict. The graphics and signage package includes 2 non-illuminated aluminum bench signs with painted and routed content, total graphic area 18 square foot each. 1 non-illuminated aluminum column wrap sign with painted and routed content, total graphic area 42 square foot, that's 21 square foot per side. 2 non-illuminated freestanding column wayfinding signs with painted, routed, and vinyl content, total graphic area 44 square feet each. 1 internally illuminated platform sign with black acrylic letters outlined with magenta LEDs. Sign to be illuminated 24/7, color will not change, total graphic area 44 square feet. 3 internally illuminated wall-mounted parking P signs with blue background and white letters. Distance to ground varies by location, total graphic area is 18 square foot each, that's 9 square foot per side. 1 non-illuminated black aluminum canopy sign, total graphic area 22 square feet. And then the applicant has identified potential future signage locations throughout the development. The applicant is to seek separate approval for future tenant signs and parking mural. The submittal includes site plan, elevations, renderings, and detailed specifications for the proposed graphics and signage. The proposal is generally consistent with the recommendations of the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan. The plan states that a wide range of design styles are appropriate for East Franklinton and encourages signage that reinforces the industrial character of the neighborhood. Additionally, the plan recommends that signage be logical and complementary component of the overall project and does not obscure any significant architectural elements, as well as contain simple messaging. The proposal is consistent with these guidelines and no prohibited signage types are being proposed. However, the plan also includes specific guidance on appropriate size, height, and placement for particular signs. The proposal is generally consistent with these guidelines with minor deviations noted below. The proposed gravity illuminated platform sign is the most inconsistent with the plan recommendations. The sign exceeds the maximum allowable graphic area per face of 25 square feet, is not mounted on a masonry base, and it's internally illuminated, all of which are inconsistent with plan recommendations. The proposed height from grade is consistent with the plan, and the sign was evaluated using the standards for a ground sign. There is no specific guidance in the plan for canopy or bench signs, so the most comparable standards were used in evaluation of its elements. Staff notes that all future tenant signage is to comply with the gravity mixed-use development retail signage guidelines as approved by the EFRB in November 2018. Staff recommends the board continue to delegate future tenant signage as staff approval, so long as the proposed signage is consistent with the previously approved guidelines. Staff is generally supportive of the signage and graphics package as presented, with the exception of the illuminated platform sign. Staff recommends conditional approval, with the condition being that the applicant remove the internal illumination from the gravity platform sign.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Hearing none? Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. This is my first time seeing these. Did you send these to us already? The actual like designs?
Yes,
You did. Okay, I'm sorry, I must have missed it.
I will double check my email list to make sure that you got
I
those.
probably might.
Okay, the applicant will step forward, please.
Okay.
Welcome back, Jessica.
Thank you. I've missed you. I had a great vacation though, but I did miss you.
All right. Please identify yourselves for the record.
Kirsty Hessing, Kaufman Development.
Jessica Shuring, Kaufman Development.
Jenny Robertson, Quality Custom Signs.
And Dino Paglia with Quality Custom Signs.
And as to all of you, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I did.
I do.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Floor is yours.
Okay, sounds good. Kirsty is going to kick us off. She's a fairly new development project manager with Columbus, but with Kaufman, but she's been coming to these for the last few months.
Thank you, Stephanie, for the introduction, and thank you to the board for your time today. We're excited to be presenting these signs and kind of getting to the final touch moments of our Gravity Phase 2 project. We're really excited that this last little bit, we feel, is when that personality really kind of starts to come alive. As we worked through the signage, we really tried to keep the larger campus in mind. So really thinking through how we can be clear and concise, but we really wanted to maintain that unique kind of Kaufman and Gravity brand identity at the same time.
Great. And just to touch on a few things from Stephanie's staff report, thank you, it was very thorough. I think the biggest thing is that illuminated gravity sign that sits at State and McDowell, that's such a present corner. And really that's one of our beacons of gravity. We really feel that that is an important and impactful sign, and would like to have the board respectfully consider keeping it. You can see the rendering that will show what it's like, minus the see-through piece that you can kind of stick your hand through, but that should be fairly accurate. And we intend to keep the design that way and execute that way if it's approved as such.
Okay.
We're available for questions.
Questions?
I, for one, always appreciate well-integrated lighting in signage, and I think you've got signage across the street, which is internally illuminated as well in a slightly different way. I realize it's not part of the guidelines to support internally illuminated, but I think because it's integrated so well and it is an art piece in itself, I would support it.
it's unusual enough that we can, what I'm always concerned about is precedent,
Yes.
okay? And I would say this one's unique enough that it doesn't establish a precedent that someone can now come to us and say, gee, we have this box sign.
A box sign is totally different, yeah.
Yeah. This is a little different thing. So, yeah,
And I think we were cognizant too, for a lack of better comparison, because obviously it serves a purpose to not do like hospital signage, in a hospital campus. So we were trying to differentiate from what you might see in a more traditional neighborhood, while keeping in mind that we want to honor the creativity of Franklinton and of Gravity in that way.
Nice question of Bart and Bill and maybe the staff here. What do you anticipate what do you expect the intention of the recommendation that ground signs only be externally illuminated? Is it some kind of retro, like, charm issue?
yeah.
I think it's something that's been taken from other signage code and like again, I feel like East Franklinton should be pushing elements architecturally, signage wise. I mean, this seems to do something in an innovative way that is not a box sign. I mean, I realize that the spirit of that code is to try to eliminate just really simple illuminated box signs. So I think that's the question here. Like, does this fit the brand of what they're trying to do here? Does it do it in an unusual way? Is it, I mean, this is not an inexpensive piece, I'm sure. You could do externally illuminated signage for this site for a quarter of the cost of what this is going to be. So I think it's intended to be a kind of feature piece.
Exactly. And placed where it is, because we know that's a pretty active and prominent corner, with the city doing some work on State Street to kind of highlight that street as well. We thought it integrated well with what's going to be happening there.
Yeah, let me just say for the record, for everybody's sort of public knowledge, maybe like on my first day, to let you know where I'm coming from. McDowell State is probably one of the key intersections in the whole neighborhood. It's not the intersection to be taken lightly. It's where we're really going to make a statement. State Street is the critical street, I think, in all of East Franklinton. Not Broad, not even town, but State Street is where the hinge around which the neighborhood is going to spin from now on, I think. This is incredibly important, I think, to get this one right. Question. I'm sorry, no, I don't feel like I'm super prepared because I didn't know about the link within the, is there an issue? Is this the only sign that we're looking at today, or is there another sign in question?
So they are requesting approval on the entire package.
Okay.
The staff report details in the table section of the staff report, I broke it out sign by sign is how it lines up with the guidelines.
Right.
And everything was generally consistent, really, with that gravity piece being kind of the outlier of all of them. And to your previous question, I don't think we can really speak to where exactly that language of the code kind of came from, or the plan came from. But the plan does talk in several places about like light spillage, and things not really being disrupted to the surroundings and having light shining above the horizon and things like that. So that was, in my opinion, was kind of where that illumination was a concern. And like a ground lighting or something specifically pointed at the sign would be less bright.
It feels to me like something that might have been left over from another version of this plan that they planners might have. It feels quaint.
Well, it comes up all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we're setting a precedent
No.
with this sign.
No,
We approved the phase 1 gravity sign, which was a similar situation.
Yeah, I think the sign provisions also deal with walkability. So if you have a large number of box signs and the like that mainly appeal to people in cars, it degrades the walkability. Now, this is down low. I don't think this appeals to people in cars very much. So, yeah.
It's sitting on a platform that is meant to be used by the community. You know, maybe somebody's gonna read out there or be a friend. So in that way, I agree. It's really integrating within the community. It's Instagram.
Entertain a motion at this time. Sounds like we've got consensus.
Yes, I think the other signage, which is the wayfinding, it's not illuminated at all, right?
Correct, with the
Yeah.
exception of those parking signs that
Right.
you mentioned, which is fairly typical.
Right.
But correct.
So I would move to approve the application as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Stephanie, call roll, please.
Mr. Fergus,
Approve.
Mr. Overly,
Approve.
Ms. Benner,
Approved.
and Mr. Sweeney.
Approved.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
You guys have a great day.
You too.
When you leave, ask Mr. Bush to return.
We will.
Thank you.
And it's not, that's true. Okay. Next application is EF 22-08002, address 629 West Bridge Street. The applicant is Roger Onan, and the owner is the City of Columbus Land Bank. Since we have our gentleman in here, we can see the staff report.
This is application EF 22-08002 for 629 West Bridge Street. The applicant is requesting review and action for a new single-family home with attached garage within the Dodge Park subdistrict. The current proposal includes the following: a new single-family home with attached garage, a new 20-foot by 20-foot asphalt paved parking area with alley access, new 6-foot wood privacy fence to enclose the rear and side yard, and a new 4-foot or 4'5" black aluminum fence to enclose the front yard. The submittal includes a site plan, floor plans, elevations, and material specification cut sheets. The proposal is somewhat consistent with the recommendations of the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan. The plan states that use and density that are in line with plan recommendations should be supported. The plan also encourages the development of single-family homes in this area with parking in the rear. The proposal as presented is in line with these guidelines. However, the plan also recommends that new housing should be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. An attached garage is not typical for the neighborhood. Additionally, while front yard fencing is present in East Franklinton, it is not typical in more recent projects. The plan also recommends that buildings on corner lots should be oriented towards the corner. The building as proposed only addresses Grub Street. Further, the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan recommends landscaping be used to provide aesthetic appeal. The privacy fencing along Ridge Street is not aesthetically pleasing nor commonplace for the neighborhood. The plan also recommends that lights be fully shielded and directed downward to prevent light spillage. The proposed floodlight fixture above the garage door is not consistent with this recommendation. Finally, the plan recommends inclusion of street trees in consultation with the city forester. Staff is generally supportive of the use, but it encourages the applicant to consider modifications to the proposal to better align with plan recommendations and increase compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. As such, staff recommends the following design modifications: a redesigned front porch that wraps around the northwest corner to better address both Ridge and Grub Street, a detached garage located closer to the alley, removing the front yard fencing, removing the side yard fencing, and increasing the setback from the rear yard fencing along West Ridge Street to allow for a landscape buffer between the fence and the right-of-way to minimize the visual impact of the fence, and then inclusion of street trees along South Grub Street in consultation with the city forester. Staff also recommends the applicant review the property and right-of-way lines to ensure the proposed fencing does not extend beyond the parcel boundaries. Staff's recommendation is to continue.
Thank you. Questions for staff?
Stephanie, could you elaborate a little bit on the request for the home to be oriented towards the corner? Sounded like you were suggesting a wraparound porch would be a solution to that. I haven't really seen that too much with new home construction. Is that a recent staff recommendation, or is that something that's?
That comes from just plan guidance that buildings that are on corner lots should be designed to address both street frontages. And the fact that Ridge Street is such a prominent street in East Franklinton, if there are any design solutions, a house a little bit further down Grub Street has a little bit of a wraparound porch, I think on that same northwest corner. So it's just a design suggestion. If there was a way, obviously you can't flip the building to actually front Ridge Street because of the shape of the lot. So if there was any design modifications that would help do that.
So the porch is not a necessary element. It's just that the building as designed does not seem to address both streets in any way.
Correct.
It could be handled with landscaping. If a landscaping plan was presented, it could be handled with other details, perhaps.
Sure. I mean, the plan does recommend front porches that are at least 10 foot deep, but it was, to your point, having the porch be the solution to address both frontages, that was just staff's recommendation.
Does the plan make any general recommendations regarding fronting on the major thoroughfares throughout East Franklinton, Broad, State, Town, Rich, and whether the buildings along those corridors should address those streets directly?
No, the plan just talks about that buildings should front onto streets. So if this were flipped and they were proposing that the front door be on the alley, that would be not consistent with the plan, but it doesn't prioritize which street if it's on a corner.
I can give you, Chris, a good example, I think, of what maybe staff and maybe what the plan is referring to, and that is a building on the corner of Dakota, I think, and Town. The southeast corner, where there's kind of a wraparound porch that addresses both Town and Dakota. The same actually on Martin and Town. The northeast corner of Martin Town has the same kind of wraparound porch. Back in the old days, when they build these nice porches on the corner, they would address both streets. And I think that's kind of what the plan is getting at.
One like that on the corner of 101st too. It's not uncommon.
Instead of
Of
that.
course,
was-
101st is old.
Yeah,
Those porches are more decorative than functional.
right. Who's gonna go?
So
Yeah.
narrow, they wrap around.
I think that's what that means.
Any other questions for staff? Otherwise, if the applicant would step forward, please.
Afternoon.
State your name
My name is Roger Honan.
and do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Okay, floor is yours.
So to hit on a couple points around this, yeah, I did build the house or design the house so that it addressed Grub Street. I was trying to align it with all the other houses on Grub Street. I didn't think about kind of trying to address both corners because it really, to your point around the wraparound porch, I felt it became non-functional and it just wasn't worth the extra cost. So I figured if I oversize the porch, make it the length of, or the width of the house, and then extend it out a couple of feet. So the standard is 8 feet, so I moved it to 10. And the primary way where traffic's going to come is actually coming from 315 headed east. So as you come around, and the majority of the people that are coming in are going to see the porch of the house. So that's kind of where I went from that perspective on that. The attached garage is actually integrated into the house right now. So the actual master bedroom sits on top of the garage. So separating the garage from the house actually eliminates the master bedroom. And part of that, as I think you guys are aware from a month or two ago when the Schmidts were here, this property is currently labeled as flood zone A, so we're not allowed to have a basement. So in order to accommodate a little bit of spacing from not having the basement, I tried to create a little bit of an extra room upstairs just to counter that. For the trees on Grub Street, I have talked to the city forester already, which is why there aren't trees there. Restricted from two perspectives. One, I'm not allowed to put a tree on a tree lawn within 50 feet of a stop sign. And as that is headed north on Grub Street, I cannot put trees on the tree lawn. And if I were allowed to, the tree lawn there is only 3 feet wide and it's not suitable for trees to begin with. So I can't put trees there. It was an oversight on my plan that there's not a landscaping right in front of the porch. There is a plan to be landscaping in front of the porch. It was just, right now it shows as grass, but there should be a landscaping component there, and that's an oversight on my part. So the plan is when I'm done, there will be landscaping there. The other thing is around fencing. Because it is abutted to Bridge Street, and, you know, cars are gonna come by, people are walking by, I did want that visual separation there. I did put a wood fence there. You know, part of what I was looking at is potentially getting a mural painted, on the fence to kind of keep it in the theme of Franklinton Arts District, which we're right, abutting up to. That or potentially switching out with a pure white fence. There is, privacy white fencing about 1 block up on a corner. So it is consistent with more recent, installation. So if people don't want the wood fence, there is a more kind of a vinyl or a plasticky type white fence that has been approved as of late. And then similar note to fencing, part of that is just privacy in the backyard, again, knowing that the lawn is going to be directly up against Rich Street. And then the front is really just an extra security protection, kind of because I'm at that cross section, kind of having that front yard fence kind of keeps people from walking across the lawn and kind of going there. So that was kind of my thought around the front yard fencing. I'm not sure if that covers everything or not.
Any questions for the applicant?
The fencing material in the front yard, which one would you use?
It's in there, I believe, in terms of there, but it's kind of like a black fencing, aluminum type of fencing, something like that is what I was looking at doing. And so kind of what I was going for is, as I walk up and down Grub, most of the fences are about 4.5 feet high. So I was trying to match the height of the fences around me. And then across the street from me, it's fenced in with black fencing. So I was trying to match the color and tone of the other fences and the heights of the fences around. But those are not hard and fast for me. It was just more of a, if you guys want me to change that out, happy to change any of these minor things.
I think the fencing brings up a really good point about the entire project, that, you know, your site is in the East Franklinton Creative District, right? Creative Arts District. And, you know, this board was organized to ensure that every project tries to, you know, work with that theme. And, you know, we're looking for a lot of innovation in design. The fence, as you describe it, like, oh, well, if it became an element where it was more artistically considered, you know, I don't know the white vinyl fence that you're referring to. This site might be on the edge between the East Franklinton district and Franklinton at large. Would that be true? Are we on an edge?
The one that I'm referring to is still on Grub Street.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
So it's within it.
It's on north, it's like a block north.
I mean, I can't imagine, I don't think I would never have approved a white vinyl fence system for projects. So I'm not sure where that installation came from. But I just think in general, this house, like, I would approve, if it were done well, I would approve a project on this site that had an attached garage, because I see the implications of what you're working with here, and I see the tightness of the site. You have some code variance issues that you're gonna have to deal with in terms of rear yard, open space, which this plan will not satisfy, so you'd have to probably go to the BZA down the road to get a variance for that.
Help me understand that really quickly, because the requirement is 15% rear yard, which this satisfies.
15% in East Franklinton.
This wouldn't need to go to the BZA anyways. You all could bless any modification to
Okay,
that.
it's 25% rear yard, but
I had BZS look at it, and what they're calculating as rear yard, I think includes that paved space.
Yes,
So this meets that calculation.
yes.
Okay. Well, I guess where I'm going with all this is I feel like the elements of the planning of it seem workable to me. The elements of the details of it don't seem worked out enough to me, you know, as the architect on the board, you know, I'm looking for details of like, how does that soffit get designed? What's the scale of the window relative to the face of the building? Siding considerations, trim considerations. I mean, these are not, even the railing that we see on the front porch seems to be shown very schematically. So we don't really have any details of how this house comes together outside of its planning right now, that we could evaluate the design of it.
I guess kind of I'm confused because I was told that we need like a 40 to 50% design to make sure people conceptually understood where we were headed.
Is this a conceptual review?
No, it's a for approval.
Yeah. I don't have enough information in this application that I could even begin to, I would just right off the bat say that this was a project that would have to be continued for me to review it. It doesn't have the level of information that we need.
Some more meat on the bones.
Yeah, I mean, we need
So
trim and, you know, just from, you know, some advice that I would give you is the windows feel too small relative to the face of the building. I mean, if I look at the side elevation and I'm looking at that front porch, the side elevation is not accurately depicting how high that gable is going if I look at the side elevation, it's much lower relative to where the ridge of the porch is. And, you know, even the scale of that, the pitch of it seems to me a little high. It's getting very close to the sills of the windows, which is going to give you all sorts of flashing problems with those windows. I just think there aren't enough elements that have been worked out at an architectural level for it to be reviewed. However, I think from a planning standpoint, I'm with you that, you know, there is a way that this board, I feel, could accept an attached garage and, you know, an owner's suite above that garage as a kind of smaller element off of the back of the house as a solution. But that's kind of where I am right now with this.
A question, were you saying that the intention of the fence along the north edge of the property goes all the way past the house into the sidewalk? With the intention of cutting off any kind of like cross traffic?
So in the front of the house.
But we're talking about the fence that runs along the
Yeah.
northern.
Yeah, so in the northwest corner there, the fence would go along to the sidewalk and then cut across.
Fence cuts across.
Where the zero lines are at, on the northwest.
On the north property line, it's that metal fence until you get to the corner of the house, and then it switches to the wood privacy fence the rest of the way back towards the alley.
Got it.
Why is it moving at that angle? Is that
On the right hand, on
a
the right hand.
vision?
Yes, yeah, I'm required 10 by 10 clearance that I worked on with Christine Needs.
I would be supportive of your fence proposal if you move the wood privacy fence back to the rear corner of the house as opposed to the front corner of the house.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the metal fencing in the front doesn't bother me, but I think having that extended wood privacy fence wrapping around the house isn't a great,
Yeah.
visual feature. And if you wanted to do a mural on that fence, then you could, certainly could. You'd have enough room on the rear yard portion of it. I think it would accomplish your goals for privacy in the backyard.
Agreed.
Yeah, and not just look like a blank slate of wood halfway down Bridge Street. Literally, 100 foot
Yeah.
long slate.
I would agree with Bart conceptually on the attached garage as well. Regarding his concerns with the detail, are you working with an architect on the project?
Yeah, I'm working with a builder, right? So just at this level, we just haven't got to that next phase of it. So, right, if you conceptually agree that there are windows on the side and windows on the front and things are in this general direction, before we actually go through and build this, right, there will be a full architectural plan around this.
I would consider bringing the porch in on the sides. That is a very non-standard porch detail relative to the main house, that it comes out the full width of the house. I would pull it in. It wouldn't have to be much, maybe 18 inches on a side, and it would give you some space to think about extending the eaves of the roof, giving it a little more character. I would even consider perhaps doing a hip roof on that instead of the gate. I mean, it could work as a gable, but I'd go a little shallower and I'd go a little narrower with it. And I think that you could also think about, as you keep working on the design of it, making the house itself a little narrower. I was just kind of cruising through the plans, and I think you could probably take a couple, foot or something out of this, and you would get more side yard.
Yeah, it would be difficult to take another foot out based upon what's happening inside of the house. So yeah, we've tried, we've looked at 26, 28, and 30 feet wide. As I've been working with the builder, and we came on the middle ground of 28 feet based upon laying out everything in the house.
So, since I gather the consensus seems to be that we're going to be continuing this application, I do want to give him full feedback on what we're looking for, and probably the place to start is some of these staff recommendations. So, first of all, do we have a consensus that under the right circumstances, we're going to approve an attached garage to the rear of the premises? Does anybody have a problem with that one?
I don't have a problem with it. Another piece of advice I would give you is find a way to, that's also why I was trying to make this house a little narrower. Find a way that garage can be in line with the, I guess it would be which way is north?
So it would be the south side of the house.
The south side of the house.
Yeah, so the other option there with bringing it in line is there's a slider coming out to the backyard area. So instead of a slider, perhaps a traditional door. And then, because I need 6 feet in order to have the slider in there, which is what pushed the garage door over. So if we turn that to a traditional door, then potentially that can move up.
Yeah, there are other variables there, but.
Yeah.
Can I offer a comment? And, I don't think I'll vote against this based upon the attached garage. Because I feel for you that there's a flooding issue and you can't get a lot of capacity out of the house because of that. But I would point out that I intend to, in this new seat, talk about basic planning principles, including some sort of order that's made in the neighborhood regarding design standards. And I know you guys do this, but I'm getting to the fact that this is on the end. This is the piece you're going to see. And, while we want to do innovative stuff and not shut down cool ideas, just like we talked about with the last application, I think, we'll need to continue, keep in mind that what makes an urban neighborhood, the traditional design of the urban neighborhood in the large part is what makes it cool. The walkable blocks, the sidewalks, the front porches, the orderly back alleys with garages on them. See where I'm going with this? I think Bill's right. precedent is a little bit concerning, that if we're going to just start kind of changing what the houses look like in the Dodge Park sub-district to include the fundamental inclusion of attached garages versus detached garages, a choice that was made over 100 years ago and has been kept for over 100 years. We built at FDA, we built a lot of houses on Skidmore and Grub, and we detached the garages for that reason. However, we didn't also run into this floodplain problem, which I, again, feel for you. But the fact that it's on the end is somewhat concerning to me. And if it were mid-block, I wouldn't think it would set such a precedent for the public to see it. So going forward, I'm going to always want to talk about the main streets, the streets that are the most obvious, the most trend-setting for the neighborhood. And this is one of them. This is Rich Street. This is our main corridor into the neighborhood. People get off 315 right there. It's one of the first things they're going to see. And so there's my speech. I'm done.
That's a fair point.
Thank you.
All fair points. I think in terms of the garage, the flood zone problem combined with the characteristics of the lot, give us enough to go by that we're not establishing any broad precedent, I think. If and when we approve this, I do want to read that into the record so that so we have a record of why we're doing what we're doing. Other staff recommendations. We could go back to the. I don't have any. Okay. All right, let's look at the rest of those. Do we have any other feedback on these, on the staff recommended changes?
I think certainly addressing the corner condition in some way is important. And I think it could be a landscaping solution that at least in with the fencing and landscaping, that somehow solves the issue of the corner lot of this site that has a true front to one street, but it also addresses another.
Just a recommendation on the corner. You could have another set of steps coming off your porch towards the corner. That's the wider part of your side yard anyways. And so if you ever wanted to walk off your porch around the side of your house, be a natural path anyhow.
Have you ever considered making the house longer? I'm just kind of going back to Jim's comment of the detached garage, the pattern. Because you have the master bedroom over the garage, I could also see a scenario where the master bedroom becomes the back of the house and has the view to a backyard between the house and the garage, just simply by making the main house longer and then creating that open space between the issue is I guess I fully don't understand the floodplain issue. I guess it's related to the floodplain issue we had with the project across the street. The little magic 1 foot floodplain.
Yes.
Which
There was some positive movement on that actually. So the city reversed the policy that went into effect last year that made single families no longer exempt. Has now been reversed, which is allowing, I think, these folks to move forward without type of water retention.
Weren't there like hundreds of houses in the neighborhood affected by that?
200 lots.
200 lots, some of which the city owns.
Right.
And it's due to sewer backup, potential sewer backup during a flood.
Correct.
Right.
But the rub was all these sites had houses on them, or a lot of them did when the floodplains were drawn. So you're not displacing any additional water by replacing those houses. And so they were willing to carry the exception forward. Just a side note. For single family.
is the floodplain going through this site somehow?
Yes.
Can you roughly show us where?
Yeah, so well, the house is, for this property, the floodplain goes through the entire property.
Oh, the entire property?
Yeah,
I thought
so-
maybe somehow the garage.
It's part of that.
pretty much the whole thing.
Yeah, it's part of that.
pretty-
So the garage is a red herring. You know, it could be a detached garage. The issue remains the same. It's not like we're trying to avoid a little
You can't have
corner
a-
of the
You
site.
can't build a basement.
Can't build a basement.
He could build a, he could have a finished basement if it
Uh-huh.
wasn't flooded.
So extending out over so the original plan that I had did not extend out over the garage at all.
Yeah.
And so without the basement, and you can't build up to stay within the height restrictions, and cost constraints, right? So you have to build out. And so that was part of the extension of the house. And then to keep a usable backyard and have a usable, somewhat usable present front yard, so that when somebody does come around, they just don't see house, they see grass, porch, house, right? That was part of the design considerations.
Mhm.
And so,
But, I'm sorry, finish please.
and so the floodplain actually for this area covers about 3 acres. So it starts from Grub Street and heads over to Skidmore, and then it's parabolic, if you will, kind of going in and
Yeah.
out, but it stretches up to about 150 feet on either side on Grub and Skidmore and Gift Street.
It's the floodplain area.
Yeah.
Here, this is the house.
Let me point out one thing. Thank you for elevating, raising the house up to the proper level. We used to debate this quite a bit with people. When people did put in basements, they put it on slab. House didn't match. So I assume that's crawl under there.
Yeah, so it's going to be crawl space underneath.
Second thing is for Stephanie and Douglas maybe, does the code go into window size? Is there a recommendation, maybe a percentage of the face of a residential structure with windows? We have that for commercial buildings.
Yeah, there's recommendations for commercial about percentage transparency on like ground floor.
Yeah.
But not for residential.
I'm with Gordon. When I looked at this, I thought these windows looked kind of typical for old Franklinton houses that where the windows would reframe down to fit some off-the-shelf model, i.e. cheap.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'd imagine you want to look at this thing.
Yeah, so part of that, I
Size thing
think is
properly.
the first and second floor are 9-foot stories. And so the house is relative to 9 foot versus 8 foot is going to look a little out of place. But they do match, I believe I drew properly to scale. When I looked up the window sizes, I did match the scales of the windows to the actual size of the proposed windows.
Match what?
Those windows in terms of scale to the actual windows that go in there.
But you could use bigger windows. Take a bigger window. You get more light.
I could pay thousands of dollars more. Yes, you are correct.
Because if you're building from scratch, you're building from the ground up, right? It's
Yeah.
not a rehab. You can make the windows whatever, frame it however you want.
To go 6 inches wider and 8 inches taller, the cost would be negligible. I'll give you the difference in cost.
Nothing.
Do we have that on
Put
record?
that on the record.
It's negligible.
I mean, I guess kind of for me, in terms of next steps, right? Yes, there needs to be more meat on the bones, if you will, in terms of specific items, but as a general approval of this design and what we're working on, where do we stand? It sounds like you're okay with the attached garage, you're okay with the fencing, you're okay with the front porch, maybe some minor exceptions in terms of perhaps having stairs on the left-hand side or the north-facing side to address some presentation on Rich Street. You know, the windows that are being used are actually in the materials provided. They are Anderson windows. So the specifics of the windows are in there. The siding that we're going to use, the roofing that we're going to use are all in the material packet, right? Are there specific things that I need to do or to change? Because right now I'm not hearing the exact things that I need to make changes to this overall, other than more details.
Well, more detailing specifically, when you talk about the roof, what's the overhang of the roof? What's the size of the fascia? What's the soffit material? Your roof is coming to a point. I don't know what kind of gutter you're gonna use,
Yeah.
So these are things that the trim, there's no side trim, there's no trim where the siding meets the bottom of the overhang of the roof. There's no trim around the windows. I mean, those things would have to be called out in the drawings. The railing system is schematic right now on the porch. So we need some better details of both the wrapped columns and the nature of that railing system.
The details on the railing system are in the materials that I submitted. They are going to be painted wood spikes, and the details are in the materials.
Okay. So, I mean, I feel like the drawings should also be showing that. You know, I don't think that we need to refer to cut sheets and then look at drawings that are not accurately depicting what the design of this house is going to be. So I think you've got to get a little closer with the drawings themselves to more accurately depict the materials that are being used.
Window size. How does everyone feel about the window size, particularly on the front of the house?
I still think they're too small.
It
I
looks
think
small to me.
you could make the first level windows taller and even bigger. You could make the second, you know, right now it looks like the first and second level, those windows are exactly the same size. It's hard to tell.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so, I mean, typically, first level houses, the window height can be a little higher, could be as much as a foot higher from sill to head.
I'm more concerned about the north side of the house, because that's what more people are going to see. And again, the windows feel small. I mean, I'm new here. I don't know if we can ask the applicant to give us bigger windows. It sounds like we can.
Well, what about making a bigger thing out of it? Like, I see that you have some sort of a bonus room on the second floor.
That's the master bedroom.
But it's on the north, yeah. It's on the south, the bonus room is on the south side of the house, and so this is the north side, which are bedrooms.
Okay, but, yeah, I don't know. I look at the window, I got this thing with windows, like, you look at the front of that, like, take a suburban house. The front is the only thing that really gets designed. And then you go to the sides and it's all vinyl siding, and wherever I need a window, by God, I'm gonna put a window. It doesn't matter. I can make I can make a little horizontal window. I can make a big window. There's no, to me, there's no rhyme or reason to the pattern of how those windows come together on the facade. And especially when we think about the corner condition, the opposite elevation, I think there could be some opportunities to maybe do a bay window or gang some windows together so that you could get a bigger picture window sort of situation going. Just compositionally, I think it needs some real work. It definitely looks like the side of a house that will have a house next to it, and it doesn't.
Yeah, so the windows are based on the layouts of the rooms, right? In order to add lights to the inside. So, for example, on the north side of the house, there is a bathroom as you enter there. So we don't have a window on the north side of the house in the bathroom at that point because there's a shower there. So not putting one there, but we do have one on the front facing side. And then we have 3 windows on the north side of the house, or I should say the south side of the house there, matching to where the dining room and the living room are at, which is why you have the window pattern as they are. And so again, on the north side of the house where you have the office, you have a window, and then really when you have to take account utilities in the pantry, stove, refrigerator, etc., there's only so many places that you can put windows based upon the layout. So it's kind of, windows have been laid out functionally in order to make sure I'm getting as much light into any individual spaces while not having to change the layout of the house functionally in order to actually work in the house and live in the house.
Yeah, I'll say I was actually pleasantly surprised with the amount of windows you have on the north side, considering you're on the corner lot. I mean, the last single-family applicant we had only was showing 1 or none, and we were trying to get them to add 2. Here we've got an applicant with 6 windows on that side, and, yeah, I think if we looked at every other house on that street, they would probably have less windows on the side of that house.
Yeah, I was really trying to make sure that you can get cross light anywhere that it's possible. So in windows for rooms that are sitting on a corner, have two windows, or if I'm going across or on a corner, again, trying to create that cross light, because I am going to have that southern exposure, which is going to go up against the Schmidt's house. So there's not going to be as much southern light coming in for the most part. So you've got to pull in lights from the east, the west, and from the north.
What about the attic? It's a big attic. Is that just gonna be conventionally trussed?
It's going to be conventionally trussed. I think, again, on the submittal, that may have been oversized. So originally, there was a different plan for the north side of the house, and I may have omitted pulling that back down from a structure perspective. But that will be conventionally trussed. I am not an architect.
I'm sorry, what is your role on the project?
Sorry, what is
Are you the
that?
builder?
No, I am the homeowner or the future homeowner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries.
We suggest when terms that he returns with his architect in tow.
I would say, yeah.
Are there other examples? So I've closely mimicked the level of specificity that was in the Schmidt's application, just to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. They did not have more levels of specificity in terms of the outlining ways of how their house worked in this. So are there examples that have more meat on the bones, if you will? I've also gone back and reviewed a couple years of YouTube videos and looking at other kind of structures and designs and submittals on houses, or even doing attached garages, et cetera. And I didn't see the level that I'm hearing about. So are there specific historical versions that I can reference for getting this level of approval to make sure I come back with what is being expected?
I think you could, just look at a builder set of plans. Like if you have a builder that that you're working with, and if they've ever done, I mean.
Yeah, this is.
I would say this is more of like a spec home sort of design at this point, or could be very close to a spec home, more conventional thing. You could probably just look at one of the sets that they've given you, or.
I think what he's asking is there an example out there that something that we've reviewed and approved that he can see what we're.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the project that Higgins is working on that has the single family homes just on the opposite side, they're doing the multi-family and they're doing the single family.
That's what we're thinking. This is a while ago.
They're townhomes, but they are intended to look like.
Well, there's been no new construction on Skidmore and Grub in the last 5 years.
Wow,
So
that's-
I can, if it would help, and we can try to pull it up on the bigger screen. I went back to the Schmidt's application. I think does have a little bit more detail, as far as like roof pitch and overhang. Their rendering, is colored, so their elevation just has a little bit more measuring and scale. It was a, it was a.
Grub Street.
Yes, it was 238 South Grub.
Yeah. I mean, it's not mandatory, but it's certainly unusual that you're not working with a professional architect on it.
We're just kind of, because of all these delays over the last year, so we actually started this whole thing probably close to 2 years ago. And then things got switched around and delayed, so I have been working with American Heritage Homes on building this. And so I mean, we could pull up their spec sheet. If you just go to American Heritage Homes and you pull up the heights, that will show you what it will look like for all intents and purposes.
So for the Schmidt's application, this is what they submitted as far as their elevations to us. And you can see some of
Look how big
the
those windows are.
additional dimensioning and the detail. But one of the things, I think even when they were before the board was asking them, for a little bit more detail, and their reasoning to you all, just to keep in mind, was that Because of the way that the purchase of this property is set up, they can't really move forward without an approval, so they can't actually purchase, so they didn't want to go into full like construction documents. Which I think on theirs, their floor plan was something they did themselves. So just kind of keeping in mind the consistency between the projects, but I would agree that this is more detailed than.
Yeah, I think we still have to be
Right,
able to evaluate it from a
Right.
design standpoint, so
sure.
I get the land bank conundrum, but
And I can send you a copy of this. I'm not sure if it's still
Oh, I have it.
linked. You have it? Okay. Okay.
All right, so windows seem to be a concern here. And larger windows, we seem to have a consensus of larger windows would be a good idea.
Trim detail.
More detail in the plan generally.
detail with the type of siding that's gonna be used, if these are both gables, I mean, you could even put small, windows up in the attic area, just to give it a little more character, so you don't have so much big blank wall facade.
Roof pitch bother you guys?
I'm okay with the,
I mean, they don't match the rear.
no,
garage
it's
at all.
typical, it's typical, I think that the porch probably should be shallower relative to the, so there's more
Example, that would be,
contrast.
83 Grub Street, that old shotgun house has a similar back.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so like,
okay.
Yeah, but the garage thing that I was bringing up earlier about trying to kind of tuck that thing back in, that's gonna be a very weird little detail where that you have a shallower roof pitch for the garage. That, I think you could work on that a bit so that that's basically all one roof pitch on the left-hand side coming down. So it's the main house roof pitch, and then
It still ends up short of the height, but it had the same pitch.
well, yeah, and I'm suggesting that garage piece, if it is gonna be the attached garage, I still think there are variables in my mind about making the house deeper to accommodate the owner's suite. But, if we assume that it's going to be this attached garage condition, I would push the garage and keep its wall face in line with the main house, and then use the main roof pitch for the garage piece. So the only piece that's gonna have a different shallower pitch would be the front porch, which is typical. Find a shallower pitch for porches.
Anyone else?
Did we answer the fence question in the front yard?
roof front shouldn't
I gave a suggestion, but I don't know that it was definitive.
Staff's point about the front yard thing.
I just suggested that they move the 6-foot wood privacy fence from the front corner to the rear corner and just replace that section with the black metal fence.
I think that's doable.
Thanks.
4 foot.
All right, you feel like we've given you enough input to be able to refine your project?
Can I add?
Certainly.
So you said you already talked to the forester. That was one of our comments in here. If you can provide the email where you went back and forth with them,
Yep.
we could take that off the list
Yeah.
and kind of mark that as checked. The other thing was, I had an email in the East Franklinton inbox from June from Christine talking about the right of way on Rich being farther back than the sidewalk. So I would just recommend either working with Christine, or if you have a surveyor, because the way the plans are shown right now, it's showing your fence right up against the sidewalk, but the parcel line, just looking at it like on the auditor site, looks like it's several feet off of the sidewalk. So if the board were to approve this, they would basically be approving fencing into the right of way.
Yeah. I had Christine review this and she approved.
You're not gonna need a 10-foot vision triangle at the corner of Rich and Grub, only the alley.
So I believe because that's see-through fencing versus
Yeah.
privacy.
Oh, so
fencing.
that's this is the privacy fence, which.
Yeah, the privacy in the back versus
Why you have
see-through
to have
fencing, yeah, in the front.
Or just a 4-foot middle.
Yeah.
So you can see, under the flood zone where it looks like where the property line is as opposed to the right of way. And if she approved this,
Yeah.
if you can send that to me, the last email I have from her in June is saying that the fence up against the sidewalk is over the right of way. So if there's been something since then.
Yeah, I think it's in July in July, I got approval.
Okay. But yeah, just making sure that that's what's squared away, because if there were any modifications or extension into the right of way, that's something the board would need to know about.
Yeah, and we had a survey last month and it didn't show the right of way encroaching on the property, the parcel, but I can double check that.
Okay, thank you. I think that addresses, so we talked about the corner, we talked about the detached garage, we talked about the front yard fencing, and sounded like you all were kind of okay with the way that kind of extends past the house towards Rich Street. That's all okay, with some modifications to the wood fencing so that they don't meet and just create a wall of fencing on Rich. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, we'd have to see it in the elevation.
Okay. But that would be the modification request for when he returns. That makes sense?
I'm not sure.
Okay. I think Chris is talking about just leaving the metal fence in the front yard
Mhm.
as it is.
Yeah.
And then taking the
Yeah.
wood privacy fence, instead of it meeting the metal
Yeah,
fence,
I'm
just
good
having
there.
it on the back corner.
I wasn't sure about the elevation request for the fence. That's what I was getting
Actually,
confused about.
So the metal fence would be extended along the side to meet the wood fence, but that meeting point, instead of being at the front corner of the house, is at the rear corner of the house.
Correct.
Okay, so you're talking about extending the metal fencing basically as an
Yeah.
L. So the metal fencing goes further down Rich Street than as shown right now.
Correct.
I don't think you want a gap in your
No.
fencing.
So yeah, to extend the metal fencing all the way down to where that 7-foot one is, between there, and then
Sort of
the
back
privacy,
corner of the
yeah,
house.
the privacy fence will just be on the rear yard.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
That side yard could be,
So side yard is still fenced in. It's
Still
just
fenced in.
now fenced in with metal as opposed to the wood.
a see-through, more of a see-through product.
Four,
Yes.
4 foot, yeah, 4
4
foot
foot
see-through metal black fence as opposed to a 6 foot wood
wood,
opaque.
yeah.
And then,
Would be opposed to a 5-foot privacy fence? As opposed to 6?
I would.
uh,
What's is the design of the wood fence in the application package?
I think it was just dog.
It's a standard
Yeah.
privacy fence.
Wouldn't do dog ear, but.
And to your statement earlier about the vinyl, white vinyl, there's a house in Lakewood across the street there on Grub that has a whole giant white fence that connects to Pilot Dog. So I know the fence he's talking about that's over there.
Yeah.
So could we just clarify for him, wood or vinyl be the preference?
Wood.
That was, okay. And then, the metal fence, you had proposed 4 or 4.5 foot. Do you have a preference?
I don't.
Do you all have a preference, 4 or 4.5 foot? They look like they're the same style, it's just one has that extra like 6-inch little
4 feet.
section on it, 4 feet. Okay. And then the other thing that I realized I left out is a design modification, thoughts on the floodlight situation above the garage door.
So all he basically needs to comply is rather than have a floodlight, a downlight.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like a
That would be our recommendation. for
Right, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. I'm not an architect either, but.
No, that was just standard builder, here's what we're going to install in your house unless you tell us otherwise. So it can be changed out.
Okay.
The garage door, if you do a 16-foot garage door, I'd do a flush panel garage door instead of the chocolate square garage door.
Okay, I'm not sure what this is.
Just a flush panel,
Yeah.
which means, there's no detail to the door.
And should we have a picture of the garage door?
The elevation makes it look like it's the,
Yeah, I think, which is hence the picture of the garage door, because it was asked about, I believe you asked for, yeah.
that
is-
looks like, there's the chocolate square.
Yeah, so that is the standard door that comes from the builder.
They can find a flush panel. It'll look cool.
I will ask them what the upgrade is for that one.
It won't cost any more. I'll pay the difference.
Difference,
Tab?
difference for bigger windows, difference for the garage, just note it to the record.
It's good and bad to have him on the.
Note for stairs on the north side of the porch.
Okay, was
Go ahead.
there anything else that you felt fuzzy on this?
Now, I guess I just kind of feel like all these seem relatively minor types of things. And so, I mean, I guess I would ask for a conditional approval on returning this back with these basic changes versus a continuance. And figure out what the appropriate way to move forward with that conditional approval is, whether it's administrative approval or whether it's returning here for a vote.
I'm not comfortable doing a conditional approval.
Nor am I. There's too many conditions.
Are we accustomed to getting like full architectural elevations?
Yes,
Yes.
So,
And these
so
are not.
these are not. These look like they've been done, you know,
and I guess the question is because I submitted these or variations of these years ago and said, hey, is this sufficient to be submitted and get approval? And the answer was yes. And so I'm concerned about the difference in terms of the going in assumption that I've been working under for the last year versus what I'm hearing about today.
Well, I think what you have here is good enough for the land bank, and you're going to have to do more detail to build to pull your permit.
Yes.
I think you've gotten enough feedback here today to know that generally you can move forward with the project with some minor tweaks. So if it's more about not wanting to pay the expense until it's approved. I
It's
think
more the timing, just in terms of, right, so the submittal for the next month's review board would be tomorrow, meaning that I wouldn't be able to get onto the next review board until October probably. in
You
order
would get an extra week. So folks that appeared at this meeting today, you get an extra week to turn around the changes. And I understand that's only a week though. And
Yeah.
there's a decent amount of changes. So I think we're hearing that the board's not comfortable moving forward with the conditional approval. A conditional approval really doesn't get you any ability to move forward at all anyways. So I think if you're hearing from them, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, that, you know, they're okay with this use, there being a single family here, and it's really just design details that need to be worked out. I think that that's kind of some assurance. I mean, this is on the record, it's on YouTube, that, you know, it would be hard to go back next month and say absolutely not on this project. I'm happy to talk to John Turner. I talked to him about the Schmitz, because even if you got approval, there's still kind of some things that are out of order for you to get your COA. We need a full permit set of drawings, which they obviously wouldn't have had because they needed their approval to even buy the property to get to a permit set of drawings. So I'm happy to talk to him and discuss the conversation that was had and that it's really design things that are, you know, preventing an approval on your behalf.
Yeah.
But I think a conditional approval wouldn't do anything for you anyways, as far as
Yeah.
the process.
I was just trying to make sure if there's ways to do like a staff approval, if everything here is already okay, and then it gets to like the lighting we get discussed about, but that's fine. I will see what we can do in the next 7 days.
Chair moves that this application be continued. Do I have a second? Seconded. Mr. Bush, call roll, please.
Second. All right, Mr. Fergus,
Approve.
Mr. Overly,
approve.
Mr. Bush,
Approve.
Mr. Napi,
Approve.
Ms. Benner,
Approve.
and Mr. Sweeney.
Approve.
Motion to continue carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Forward to seeing you again.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoy your week.
Okay, we have one more agenda item. The election of a vice chair to serve in the event that yours truly is not here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I suppose I'll throw the floor open to anyone who wants to do it, for starters.
You should just nominate Kim since he's not here.
Just about the same. The empty chair.
Well, I just got here, so I just got here, so I don't think it should be me.
I am in process of stepping off the board, so.
Well, we will, for what it's worth, we will redo this in January. Just
Okay.
procedurally every January, so it's not a lifetime commitment. Unless you want it to be.
Michael?
There it is.
All in favor of Michael, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Carrots.
Nice.
Okay, easy enough.
And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
All right.
Thank you.